Bravo.
Let me use your cushion.
Tashi dele, somala tashi dele.
Hello to everybody. Hello.
Kokam-san.
Ah, topo jo.
Joe.
Dan nang ni siya yun.
Anon ta yabo. Jimanga so tise katirana nili. Isoto ko ijimeji chilen rogo amido. Kata cheche da chiledo. Ri Hindu lemdu. Hindu.
Andrew, tatang lamindu.
Kung leki re sam gitu.
Ko lejere samudu. Mai samudu.
Kong lemon.
Ko le na pe sho ma le na go zile yes. 저것도 야보. 이게 진주. 나 놀래 진짜 고사래.
Jepagaba.
Zamashi. 뭐 저거 하시면 됐어. 저다 만들었어. 저것도 야보다. 맞아요. 요 얘기 들어야지라. 가서 저 얘기 들어서. 내가 간이 들어서 나라. 관도 다익세지. 관도 다익. 관도만은 딱히. 관도 다익세지. 어떤 노래를 하시죠? 나 진짜 좀 관도 많이 났어. 그러면 다이트리스 이기다 나서 러시아에 말해. 그 빠져 들리잖아. 그래서 대학 거셔랬어. 이쪽 얘기를 들리자. 이제 지진 나가서니 들리지 않았어. 야야 나가서니 거치자 말해. 정말에서 레게 코틀에서 말해.
Okay, so now we are going to start. Gena Andrew lagi ngalate kanis laborate shungte igur. Kung nang kong inala te surtang sok te sok pala partanga.
또.
You're recording?
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to send now a translation that Andrew did for the text, for the next few pages of the text. So I'm going to send it in the group. Rika, maybe you can send it also?
Yes.
여사래. 이사래.
Digital.
다 가서 오늘 대시 대바. 아니 열 놓이실라. 고사텔라 마소소 솔지나 혼자도 아니 람바 성여레스. 라. 요나 뎀비 쳐버도 집에노. 요나 데메기 쳐버도 집에노. 요나 데메도 데스 강기도 쳐버도 마치비 열 놓세. 하고다. 요나 뎀버트비 파서 던저롱 인문이 요바자 지니게노. 요나 던저롱 인문이 요바 마레티 노 로이 타니지 공기 파샤서 요바 노 지지. 요나 드니 공기 쳐버도 마치비 노세지 서유비 노니. 다 노세 동보디 동반이 다와니 생게 고자나마도 안가서를 매바지로. 다 노서 니바디 니인데레 나서 수지 타마바 소마가 나노세드레스. 삼바디 아니 덴트 토마노서 다디 가자 니카고 가자무니데 가고아무니데 테레스. Somebody. Somebody.
Sumbate ranshigidupet.
로지토비 쳐버지비 다노마데 다디 가고아무니데 테레스.
Okay, so yesterday what we talked about is about the three types of how the self or how the object is appearing to the mind. So there are three types, right? The first type is that the object appears to the mind by means of and not being established from its own side, but just by being designated by mere label or by the conceptual thought. This is the first way that the object appears. The second way that the object can appear is that the object appears by means of being established from its own side. This is the second way. And the third way is that the object appears by means of not being established from its own side and not by not being established from its own side, but just designated by mere conceptual thought, not the first two, but in general, like kind of not being not being distinguished by these two appearances, but just kind of a general appearance. So, as for the first appearance, this is appearance that only a person which understood emptiness can have, like the appearance of the object appears by means of not being established from its own side. Only a person that understood emptiness can have this kind of appearance. The second kind of appearance, it's common, like, this is actually what we really need to negate. The appearance of an object that is established from its own side. And as for the third appearance, this is something that we all have in common. This kind of appearance, not distinguished specifically with whether the object does appear as established from its own side or not established from its own side, but by mere conceptual thought. Just kind of a general appearance that we all have. So,
나는 와서 그래서 때나 주제 베이스 됐어. 근데 당아서 지 논세들라 지 저번에 물가 진통하도 나이 단통하 도와도 나이 저서와 공항식 논세지 요래스. 나 공항식 논세들라 아니 파쇼 돈 이런 거는 노안오지 요래스 게 지동 노안오지 요말 아니 공항식 무시 서로 가자 템퍼처 봐 노래스 게 지동 노래스 게 지 간이 요래스. 그나 로벨레데 나서 바그 가자 템퍼처 바티 공시 나서 봐 노 말해라. 아니 바데 다위 어디 노래스 무시를 노아티오 파쇼 요니 노세지클라 고덴도 노아레스 노트리기 바시레스 무그 노세.
Yes, so in general, if we are talking about the sense consciousnesses, so there are two different assertions with regards to what kind of appearance the sense consciousnesses have. So the first assertion is that whether we are talking about a form appearing to the eye consciousness, a sound appearing to the ear consciousness, a smell appearing to the nose consciousness, and so forth. So all these appearances appear as they are established from their own side. So this is one type of assertion. The second type of assertion is that all these kind of different objects doesn't appear as they established from their own side. So as for the first one, this is what Chandrakirti, Master Chandrakirti, this is what he asserts, that all these kind of different objects, when they appear to the sense consciousnesses, they appear as though they are established from their own side. And as for the second assertion, this is what Acharya Bhavavivika, he says that when all these different objects appear, they don't appear as though they are established from their own side.
당아서 나 로열을 셔서들 저동 요 다축간이잖아 요동들 니 요래라 요나 또롱게 뭐네 요바지 라 요나 요치 로인고네 파 농서지 잡아 되니 코로 많이 베가 축간이잖아 요동 요 말했어 요나 또롱게 뭐네 요바지 라 요나 또롱게 뭐네 요 말에 로이파 미도 다도 로이파 농서지 잡아 되니 코로 마토가 요동지 요 말했어.
Yes, so in general, we can say that there are two ways of existing. So the first way is that the object exists from its own side. And the second way is that the object doesn't exist from its own side, but merely designated or imputed by the mind by means of signs and by means of label and names.
당아서 여전히가 노네 여치 로용기 요파 노아테던 도롱기 오니 요파 노아니기 노가 장주지오티 도롱기 오니 요파 노아텔라 롱기노 르피노 킬롱가 데킬로스나 킬로농가 하고자 고토니 롱기 오니 요파 키지다지나 그라산데스 롱동가 리핑가 킬롱동가 모부지 그라 모부지 그런데 모부지려고 그래서 데데 도롱기 오니 요파테 가서 가고 그래서.
Yes, so as for the first way of existing, which is that the object established from its own side, so if we really kind of investigate that way of existing, that mode of existing, we'll find out that there is kind of an inner contradictory with its way of existing. And the reason is that this way of existing will be in contradiction with scriptures, with scriptural sources, with reasoning, and also with different scholars' assertions. So actually, this way of existing, this is what we need to negate.
당가서 농사를 써놓도 수수가 노아를 정지 지우디 생각은 노아이는데 무시도 나시 가르가 노아이는데 수성을 여다 싫우디 파손의 넘버 땡기지 셔들마도 너는 르이크 파 노아디 주디 셔요 말했어 파쇼 드롱이 뭐니 요바지도 라니나 드롱이 뭐니 요바지기 나바셔리 제스제 제르타나 드롱이 뭐니 요바라 지금 나바셔니 수수수수수 롱스 탐케지도 수수 드롱이 뭐니 요바지 정도 노데요레스 그죠
당보다.
동보디 나로솔리 로그 열라 노아 라 성노동라 말 가르치 노도 따오디 주간인데 지나요 파쇼니 열그거니 도롱기 뭐니 요바지 노레스 아니 뭐디 노아 자마도 롱기 로이 파 또서 르르 노서 요바지 자마니 노토쇼 마레스 도롱기 뭐니 코 주간인데 지나 도롱기 뭐니 코로코로 뭐니도 코로코로 뭐니 요바 노데오디 주코로코로 뭐니 스도기 요바 노데라 어디디 전jo 마도 나가서 노아를 저지지나 든디지 마도 균이 르그모니 파 미도 다도 타니 따서 이어받노 다나가서 노토요 마스 알레 따토니 또 상기지나 테노라 마도 제 노마레스
Yes, so if we kind of try to examine or to investigate in what mode all the different objects appear to us, like person which didn't understand emptiness yet, so all the different objects appear to us as though they established from its own side, and they never appear to us as though we kind of only merely designate them by means of conceptual thought or by means of only names and labels. It doesn't appear to us like this, like person that didn't understand emptiness yet. Those who understand emptiness yet, so they can have it's different case for them, like the way that things appear to them. But for us, it appears only in this manner, that things are kind of self-sustainable.
디리 당가솔로 가르시요레로나 지라마 좀 봐봐 좀 보기 여바니 또 메바니 쳐버시 거래서 여바니 메바니 어떻게 쳐버시도 거래서 여바니 또 메바니 쳐버시마다나 연나 통지 여바차 메나 통지 메바차네 어떻게 그런 말이 여바니 또 메바니 쳐버시도 거래서
Yes, so what Jetson Kappa, the great master Jetson Kappa, so what does he say? He said that what we need to do is that we need to learn how to distinguish between the two types of existent and the two types of non-existent. So if we won't be able to differentiate between those two, so non-existent will become that everything is non-existent, and existent will become that everything is existent.
Because the text wasn't sent, I didn't receive it in WhatsApp or on Zoom. The translation?
It's on the Shida WhatsApp group.
No, it's not.
Okay, so I'll try to check it. Just
And she was asking if you can bring more examples for them to understand easier.
Andulagi girte con rano sonsa de tambore ani nivate ani kongi de karason sonserna de pomoda de con karason sonserna de che si kerengi de petan jarna de lela pochaga che tu te che getto paina sonsa Nicola Shipanga.
인도가 이게 많이 얘기해 봤던 것이 잘하래도
Correct.
가르라 꼴라에 쳤던 것이 잘하지라
Petan jarna.
빼도 전에
Oh, I'm sorry, I sent it from my computer and it doesn't have Wi-Fi. Okay, so I sent the text once again. It's on Shida group, though we are not reading from the text yet.
그래서 당가서 여반이 또 매반이 그 접어시고 주들어서 이봐 다 여반이 있어야 돼. 저 여바도 또롱이 뭐니 여반이라 하고자
Cheerio.
저 동네 여바도 돈이 뭐니 여바 뭐니 여바세더라 어떻게 접어시고 요래서
Yeah, so now we are going to talk about the different two types of existent, right? We said like the two existent and two non-existent. Like there are kind of four modes. So the first type of existent is that in general, like being existent in general. The second type of mode of existent is that thing that existent from its own side. So these are the different two types of the modes of existent.
아니 다 매반이 있어야 돼. 자와 되니 매바도 또롱이 뭐니 매반이 돼서 매반이 있어야 돼. 또 뭐니 매바도 또롱이 뭐니 매바도 자와니 매바래 있어야 되니 접어시고 요래서
Yes, and and now we're going to talk about the two different types of non-existent, right? We said that there are like two types of existent and two types of non-existent. So as for the two types of non-existent, so the first one is that things are not existent at all, that the things are not existent at all. This is the first type of non-existent. And the second type of non-existent is that things are not established or existent from their own side. This is the second type.
다 나로 솔라 같은 노여래로나 여반이도 노여도 매반이도 노들은 같이나 여바티도 더러운 것도 여반이 보티 제발 마치니 같이 얘나 노나 여바지 노스 처음에 더러운 건 여바 노데요레스.
Yes, so what does appear to us, like normal beings? So what appear to us always in each time is that whenever some kind of existent phenomena or existent thing appear to us, it always appears as it was existent from its own side. Whatever appears to our consciousness appears as though it's existent from its own side.
아니 더러운 거는 매발에 싸우자 그자 시오디 더러운 거는 큐니 매발에 곧 상과 상로도 마토 더러운 거는 매나 매고 말해서 약간 상로도 큐니를 더 말해서 이나타 나가서 타니모 공유데 어디들이래라 시에들이나 서로 잠샤지 동도디 더러운 거는 매나 매발에 싸고로도 레오라 마토 더러운 거는 매바도 매바게 켜봐도 큐니 시도고 말해서 이라버지 이 갈릴리 아버시오데 내가서 동반이를 구하라고 차용해서
Yes, so, and as for the two different types of non-existent. So, when we think about something which is non-existent, so when we try to think about something which doesn't exist from its own side, so automatically we think about it as though it doesn't exist at all. We cannot make this kind of distinguish between things that doesn't exist from their own side and things that doesn't exist. When we think about things that doesn't exist from their own side, automatically it appears that it doesn't exist at all. We cannot make this kind of distinguish. And though we can kind of by means of terms and we kind of get used to say, oh, this is not existent from its own side, but it does exist. Or like this is non-existent and it does exist and this is not, and so forth. Like though like by means of terms and like how we speak, so we may kind of get used to make this kind of distinguish between something that doesn't exist at all and doesn't exist from its own side. Though we may speak like that, actually what is happening is that when it appears to our mind, if we really try to investigate or look at it, we'll find out that as soon as we try to think about something which doesn't exist from its own side, it will appear as it doesn't exist at all. We cannot make this kind of distinguish. And when someone eventually start to get the realization of emptiness and understanding and grasping at this concept, so gradually, slowly, he'll be able to make this kind of distinguish.
나가서 오나다 나손이 지토무도 니 오나 여반이도 매반이가 접어 시던 거 열애라나 그 지던 게 열애스 그래서 동반이지 다 고아니 생겼어 그 지토 열애스.
Yeah, so as for us, so we cannot make this kind of a difference. We cannot differentiate between these two, right? Between the existent from its own side and between the in general existent, and between not existent from its own side and between not existent at all. So for us, we cannot make this kind of distinguish or differentiation, right? And if we'll ask whether there is someone that can actually make this kind of differentiation, whether there is someone that can actually distinguish right between these modes of existence, so the answer is yes. And who is this person? The person is this who has gained realization of emptiness.
배나가서 셔도 5만 년도 주주동사라 주주동사디 나가서 지카치도 말해 수수수 셔도 5만 수수 치도 말해 셔도 5만 년 돈은 돈이래 쉬어는 쉬어녀래 이가 마셔잖아 셔도 5만 니가 마셔 아마도 5마드냐 셔도 쉬어도 말이라 다양 통화 있나요 5마드 통 셔도 자토요 말해 자손 지대 정말 비노지 주간이 있는 것은 여바다롱문이 여바니 리니 농데레 메바다롱문이 메바니 보데 리니 농데디 롱문이 메바레스나 메바인 바도 여바이나 롱문이 여바인 바데 가서 같이 이날로 셔데니 저도 오만디가노지 차대요레스.
Yeah, so what kind of example we can give for this how these modes kind of being mixed in terms of our appearance? So the example that we can give is water and milk. So water and milk, when we mix them together. So we cannot differentiate and say like this is water and this is milk, right? Like we kind of just kind of mix them and then it appears as just one thing. We cannot say this is water and this is milk. When we spill this kind of liquid, we cannot say, oh, I just spilled the water or I spilled the milk. It appears as we spill something which is the two, right? Not something that we can actually distinguish and say like what is the milk and what is the water. And the same when we drink this kind of liquid. So we cannot distinguish and say like now I'm drinking the milk or now I'm drinking the water. We experience to drink this something which is mixed. We cannot distinguish between what we drink in terms of whether it's water or whether it's milk. And the same is with regards to how the modes of existence appear to us. So when something existent appears to us, we cannot differentiate between existent from its own side and just generally existent. When something appears to us, it appears as mixed with the appearance of existence from its own side. It automatically appears like this. We cannot distinguish. The same with water and milk. And the same also with how the modes of non-existent appear to us. When we think about something which is not existent from its own side, it automatically appears as it's non-exist. We cannot make a differentiation between these two. It appears as though it kind of mixed, this kind of two appearances automatically. We cannot distinguish.
근데 나서 저도 5만 년도 뒤쪽에서 했더니 수수 치던 게 나서 내게도 치도자 말아. 이거는 수치던데 치던 게 열어서라. 열어요 말. 그것을 어쩌대. 저도 5만 년도 뒤서라. 나서 있나 치던 게 각각 치던 게 선제 열어요 말이라.
Yes, so as for us people, we cannot kind of distinguish between water and milk, right? If we kind of mix them, we cannot, as people, for person, we cannot say this is water, this is milk, right? But apart from people, is there like any kind of animal or any kind of a creature that can actually distinguish between water and milk when they are mixed together? Is there any kind of animal like this?
No.
What do you think? So please say your answer.
No.
Vika, you say no.
Mare.
정말 메래라 아마마.
요사 말해.
요 말에
요사 말해 하고 와서.
So most probably there is not, Geronimo is saying. There is no animals that can distinguish
나서
between.
되게
티켓나라와.
레베제죠. 레베.
Ruben.
레베기 치레다 그랬어. 레베 치면 또 저는 그거만 다 달래 그랬어. 저장을 좀.
Yes, so
이게
actually,
몇이다. 용나 전시자만이다.
so it's not like I kind of examined or investigated, but what I heard is that there is kind of an animal that can distinguish between water and milk, and this is a turtle. Turtle.
Oh,
Turtle.
turtle.
되다
A
그.
turtle. Turtle.
되다.
What about a swan?
Sorry?
Swan.
Swan.
A swan.
The kongi senchen to shik sonsa. The macha nang shi, the macha rang mindu. The kind of the chui gangla. The doni shik. The chape zik shik. The karpo karken shik.
되게 치더라더라.
Chetire.
그래서 치동에도 왔어. 저도 5만 년도 리와이나요. 그 치동이지요. 대노제 가서라 롱원이 옆아도 옆아니 리데요레 되나요? 그 치동이지 요레스. 치동이지 요선이 그 치지요 봐도 거고 요레스. 내가 저절로 드시고 가르스나. 오나도 치지 메레라나 메말에 치지지 요레. 가르 치동이지 요레스. 치동이지 요나 그 치지지 요거라래. 치지지 메나 자반이는 치동이지 메거래. 이게 동반년으로 거한테 차도도 치도레스. 이나 단나가서 치도요 말에. 이나가서 치마도나 치인 동만이 가가치마도나 저도나 오마도니는 돈은 돈여로는 쇼녀로 나가서.
Yeah, so just as there is kind of an animal or a certain creature that can actually differentiate between water and milk, so in the same manner there is a being or there is a person that can differentiate between the modes of existent and the non-existent, that can actually make this kind of distinguish. So since there is like someone that can actually make this kind of distinguish between saying like, oh, this is established from its own side and this is just established, and this is a non-established from its own side and this is non-established. Since there is someone that can actually make this kind of distinguish, so it means that there is necessary it means that necessarily there is difference between these two. Because if there is no one that can make this kind of difference or that can distinguish between these modes of existence, we cannot say that there is actually difference between all these modes of existence, right? If there is no one that can differentiate between existent and existence from its own side, we cannot say that there is actually kind of difference. But since there is someone that gained understanding of a voidness or emptiness, so we can say that there is a difference between these modes of existence.
당가서 정시제이다. 아니 네 자자는 단계 그 컨버전 단계 여러 이노 단계 속에 많이 되는 싫어하는 것도 저서 간디지 요가 농도 쓰라. 저서 많이 리아다고 그 간디지 농도 쓰죠. 맞아. 많이 간디지 싫어도 쓰. 하소니 요바 싫어도 아니 매바지 싫어도 요바지 싫어도 쓰. 결혼선대는 많이 있다고 뛴 통요라. 아니 많이 간디지 농도다.
Personally, yoba.
디노 요바데 간디지 요바 통도 쓰. 요바 통하는 지 저서 서로 간디지 농도다.
Yes, so now we are going to do a certain kind of examination. So those who watch us online, so we want to ask you in which manner we appear to you. So us too, so we appear to you, right? So do we appear to you? Do we exist in the way that we appear to you? In which manner do we appear to you? So please kind of share your thoughts and ideas.
근데 농도 괜찮다. 많이 디노 저서 디노 디들이 싫대거라.
Yeah, so how do we appear to you? So we kind of
싫어하는 것도 뜻이 여도 사고도 또 매도 사고도잖아.
so the way that we appear to you, so like you kind of think that the way that we appear to you is actually existent, or the way that we appear to you is how do you think about it?
뭐는 진짜 교섭을 뺄리라 그랬어. 많이 되는 싫어하는 것도 교섭은 내리요나 많이 교섭 내리요 그래요 말와. 이 노아들 노아는 것도 또 매바데 배. 네 밀로는 게 생겼어야 되라. 배 대만 그 약해들었어. 많이 인들인 게 봐서서 저를 짜는 분들이 рем비요 봤으면 그게 싫대도. 얘네 졸업팬들이 봐도 저를 놓을 싫대요디. 이나데 교섭은 라울지로 알아. 라울지 쇼는 지셔라. 이나 노이신데 졸업이 저요 봐도 정말 싫대도 그 저저 정말 싫대도. 이 싫어하는 것이 나서 노들이 노는 것이 짜는 요 말이지. 그런 지도요 말. 그래서 이 졸업들이 지는 게 저지 네가 노여라 요 말. 아무튼 저도 제 성도 다니 디노시 일을 주탐제도 수술을 노하는 것이 돌려 말이지. 노아들 처대에서 어떤 것이래. 이 것을 처리 받지. 지로라다.
Di hako gitu ina yang ane ngune chane nga kerang ni tongne tongdu konso kerang so ranching kitu ba trabo le to petaksam ane nangki omare dela torba omare nga hako gitu ane lo sharwa nangshin de yomares ina yang de kare torba yomare nyamnyong yomare nada.
Okay, so Geronimo, maybe you can translate, but just in a second, because I want to translate Genla's answer. So what Genla is saying is that it's very, very easy for you, those who are at home, because like, of course, that we not exist the way that we appear to you, right? Because if we would exist the way that we appear to you, so like it would follow that we are kind of flat, and that there is no kind of a difference like between the different spaces in the room and so forth, because we just appear as something flat for you, right? So actually this is the best kind of example to describe or to illustrate the things are not truly existent. This is like the example of the kind of an appearance to a mirror. So this is kind of the best example to describe that how things are not truly existent. So this is very, very easy to you, because if we would appear like this, so actually how we exist actually is that we have on our behind, so we have the picture and there is space between us and the picture and so forth, but it doesn't appear like this to you, right? We just appear as something flat. So therefore, we don't exist the way that we appear to you. And in the same manner, we can think that all phenomena doesn't exist the way that it appears to us. It appears as though it truly exists, but it doesn't exist the way that it appears to us. We can think of it in the same manner. Geronimo, would you like to translate?
So sure. I just told Geshe-la that even though I understand that things do not exist in the way they appear intellectually, still to me, things don't appear as something merely imputed by the mind, but I still sort of perceive things as coming, as there's something coming from their own side, coming from the side of the object. And even though I know this is not the way it is, I still don't have an experience or a feeling of this.
The Kongilante Gürson. Kongi Kerala Langiapite. Consuso Gürson.
아, 너. 네 이거를 좀 같이. 그래. 땡큐. 뒤지치라.
Thank you.
Genla, you must exist, otherwise there's no reason we got up early and walked over here.
Gela kera inchi yogore. Kera mena ni maso de la kala gyapne de drata la gimsin koran yoras.
나 열심히 지어버리더라. 진짜 지리 다녀요 봐서 했더라.
Yeah, so this is one reason. This is one reason that kind of establishing that things do exist conventionally.
나서 정말 열심히 요거래. 털바 요거래. 탐지지 요거래. 그래서 때문에 나서 깔리게는 같이 저거래. 매바질 깔리지 봐라. 그래서 말이지. 열심히 요거래디 요동들라. 나경아니 요반이 접으시고 그러더라. 요바도 롱은 요반이 접을 마시나? 아니 요바티래 롱은 요반 점은 되게 나서로 강어도 요라는 것들이 제거 그랬어. 얘들 나서 산지 잡된데 그 강어도 요라는 게 싸와 롱은 요반 점바데 티된도 롱은 다도 접은 점바데 티된 티디 팀에 봐서나 나서 강어도 요라 소마디 롱미로 시그마 지금 거니 제발 오시래지. 지금 거치에는 오기 지가가 셔로라.
Chuki.
주 와터 마주라. 되게 그 싸와니 제잖아 뭐나 오금 친구가 매바 잡으라. 무기무기는 갖고 말아. 이노제 맞소가 강문도 요다도 등화도 참 제도 싸와도 가르나 롱은 요반스 빌로도 티데 오더 돈용이. 디 로도 가잖아. 아니 지금 싸와니 가는지 아니 미치면하지 강문도 요다 소마디 마바 잡도 오스리.
Yeah, so therefore, like we must say that we exist, right? We must say that liberation is something which is existent. We must say that kind of the state of omniscience is something which is existent. We must kind of assert that all these things are existent, because otherwise, if all these things are not existent, it is as though like we kind of striving or like kind of making so many efforts for something which doesn't exist at all, for like all these kind of achievements, liberation and the state of omniscience and all these things. It won't make any sense, right? So we must kind of assert that these things do exist. And the thing is that we actually, for us, what we cannot do is that we cannot differentiate between things that exist and things that exist from its own side. Sorry, and things that doesn't exist and things that doesn't exist from their own side. We cannot make any difference between all these things. And since we cannot make difference between these different modes of existence, so all the problems that we have, all the problems and suffering in our life arise based on this kind of confusion. So therefore, Buddha Shakyamuni, the historic Buddha, so what he said that all the source and all the origin for our problems and our suffering, the source is that mind which grasps at that things exist from their own side, or the things that truly exist. So this is the source of all of our suffering and our problems, this type of confusion. And if we'll be able to kind of to refute or if we'll be able to eliminate this kind of confusion from our minds, the type of confusion from our minds that things established from their own side and so forth, if we'll be able to remove this confusion, so we'll be able accordingly to also kind of remove all the problems that arise from this type of confusion. So we can give this kind of example that if there is kind of a stream of water that flows, and if you want, so if we'll kind of stop or put a dam at the middle of the stream, so the water will just stop the stream, right? Will just stop the flow. So in the same manner, if we kind of stop this if we kind of stop the grasping at the things that establish from their own side, if we stop this kind of confusion, so the problems that arise from that will be eliminated.
스토? 스토 무마나 같은 스토는 가가. 다 나서 리가가 나 나서 요거를 매나 가서 가요 또 가려서 Tanga so rigala ke chatra ting reshe jaila ta.
Is that
Ke chatra reshe jaila ta. Kunga taga de karla so. Kyo so mena kyo yo gores. Ko mena nga so kali jam dina yo ma kali kari yore ta sa. Ta nga kyo le trot le chini nga so ting reshe jaila ta.
Okay, so now Vika, she asked the question, right? Like you asked the question of like, if you don't exist, so why did we come here and so forth. So based on this kind of question, so now what we are going to do is that we are going to give an explanation based on kind of a Q&A session, based on a kind of question and answers, back and forth.
Ta nga so yo gores. Ko mena ni nga so kali jam di kar nga yo ba nongwa. Nga yo ba choro mani ya tar nga ni di chota garu choro ko yo le no anu je te yo de sabudo do. Ngari ko ya tar ga nga ni ya tar wa. Nga ni din man ka ge nongwa. No anu je ta garu di ka tang de ndu ta garu ngaro ko no anu je re sabudo do ngaro ko no anu je te mari je ba chi re sabudo da.
Yes, so Vika, so you said that we must exist. Otherwise, there is no reason that you'll come here and that you'll make all these different efforts and so forth. So now I have a question for you. So now we appear to you, right? Like I appear as like I'm sitting on this chair and so forth. So my question is whether I appear, whether I exist the way that I appear, or whether there is like whether I exist, but whether the way that I appear is different than the way that I exist. So what is your answer?
Oh, it's easy. You see my friend Mansour here. For him, you don't appear because he cannot see you and cannot hear you. He can only perceive you because Richie and Caroline are explaining what's happening. So obviously for him, you exist in a different way than you exist for me.
Te lela fodusa. Ta gimtsun karashe serna. Ta perna nyengola te kerani te nangtul shigir. Ina te nye roko mansur. Mansur gingola te kerani konla te nangtul shempa shigir. Te gimtsun karashe.
J'aime so chito yo mare lo tombo. Choro ani no so de kare te ta ko.
Yeah, so at first don't interfere like with other people. Kind of don't talk about other people now. Talk only about yourself. So whether we appear to you as the way that whether we exist as the way that we appear to you, or whether there is like we exist differently than the way that we appear to you.
Chikpare ta nga te regala la nga so somare. Jenga no ala nga so chitu chego yo mare. So no akta gores. So no se le ta gores. Jena ya ba no yana de ba no yana nga so chitu yo mare. Ngaro so kar no te jan chego yo res. Ti ri ta na koro go choro no se kar ko so ku chi shiata ta nga so ale tila yo mare.
Yes, so therefore, like what we need to do is that we need to investigate the way that things appear to us. Otherwise, like how things appear to other person, this is kind of not a kind of business. Like whether like how we appear like to other person, whether we appear good or bad to the other person, this is kind of not of our business. What we need to first investigate and examine is that how things appear to us.
But I think still how things appear to me are different from how you guys exist. Like I have an idea, but this is not how you think about yourselves, no?
What? Equal.
Yeah, Gina just went to pour water for everyone.
I wouldn't know. You exist in 3 dimension, but I don't know how tall you are, whether you're sitting or standing, or I wouldn't know all that. Like you just exist as up here.
Just by means
Your
of like
chest.
looking at the screen.
Yeah. Other than that, I wouldn't know anything else. But when you said how you appear to us flat, but isn't that your perception of what we see than what we see, what we really see? So you said you think that you appear flat to us, but isn't that your own perception than what we see or what we perceive?
Okay, so I'll translate like the two answers. So the first one from Rika. Sorry, maybe first. No, I should not say it again. Sorry. Again. Ta Rika lagi te tampo karason son serna. Ta tatung tenia san para carrera serna. Ta Candice lavora te kerani te niengola nangsulte. Ta karena soso karena nga sosola te nga karena ngiyome tan kiran sosola kiran soso ngola te kandes ngiyome te kakayo songsa ni te nangsu nashi ngomaresa te tampo rika lagi lente chigre ani nipa te kongi naga te serkangi te kumushik ani konkara son serna ta nga te charmo verba charmo la te patsangi te kiran so yarlangi midu te mardegi midu nga te tela te patsangi nga te kotugi midu kotugi midu sa nyan te gangla ni karangi te ngola shik so ta ngani te konsola te lebleb nangshin te shagitu sersum bemba ina ya te kerangi sumpate te kerangi konsola nangsul kandre mingi samsul shigre matok te ngone te konsola nangsul kandre min te kechate chagi marepa sersum sam
Daro. Niga yabo. Very good.
okay so both of the answers are very good
다 가르즈나 다 리가가 동버티 선서 네 나, 노세도 결혼이라 말아가지고 노래스. 이게 노아노지도 요 말을 하듯이라. 이 저번에 결혼가 간디 노래스, 아니까지 노도세 기적도 되더라. 이 좋아들이. 결혼가 간디 노도, 아니까지 노도, 다가로 파손이 여바지 노래스. 파손이 여바지 노아노지 다가로 뛰는 노사 되레스.
그러네
그냥 가서 많이들이 말로나 고선대 통다. 그러니까 무슨 통다. 통하노지 다가로 그렇게 뛰는 노사 되레스. 제 말에. 지금바래 고속에 가서 야 노디 다가로 내셔시 여바지 노들. 노아노지 다가로 대 노사 되레스. 정말 여러 요 말이다.
yeah so at first I want to kind of relate to the answer that Rika gave so what I want to say is that in general like how we appear like to the so you said like that we kind of so Rika said that we kind of so for example how I appear to myself it's different to how I appear to Rika so like Rika kind of made this distinction but in general we can say that how we appear so it's we appear just a second we appear just as it appears as that we exist just as like we appear for us like whatever appears it appears just as it exists like that so for example when we see Rika sitting there so just like as it appears so it exists like this is how it appears to us that Rika exists just how she appears to us she's sitting there and so forth so this is how she appears to us so I want to ask you like whether you agree with that idea what do you think
가르스.
Lenshi Gafsan. B raised the hand. It means that you agree?
Actually, I have a question. That's why I raised my hand.
Ah,
But to
continue.
answer your question, if I have not studied emptiness, Mika is Mika. There's nothing more to it.
오, 오케이. 이때 여보.
Oh, okay.
나서
And that is why
그냥 시중 많이 그지어라. 주다를 큐네 솔로토만 돈일로토만 리가도 다가로 자자스. 다가로 타니게 제마타기 제마 퍼마지와 시바마타로 그래. 큐네 솔로토만 그지나 그 롱은 요메게 되지 마시라. 그 리간도 라는 도아로 다로 센셔데죠. 다로 디리가레스는 뒤타니게 제마 디레스. 당 가서 가르스는 디컬 전타게 시지지요라. 이네 롱은 요미오사 정식적으로 노토도 야레고네 가데레스.
Yes, so actually what you said is that it is kind of in accordance with the third type of how things appears, right? So we said that the third type is not kind of like not distinguishing or make like a kind of a certain specific difference, whether things appear as though like they exist from their own side or whether like what appears doesn't exist from its own side. So kind of not making this kind of distinguish, like just kind of how things appear to kind of a conventional, a valid cognition. So this is the third type of the way of appearance or the mode of appearance. So this is kind of how things appears to someone that didn't kind of study any type of Buddhist school, Buddhist philosophy schools and all the different assertion and so forth. Because only when you start studying these kind of different schools, so then eventually you kind of start having all these different kind of assertions, whether things do establish from their own side, or things are not inherently existent and so forth. Only after engaging in such studies, so these ideas start to come in our mind. But otherwise, like we just have like this kind of very common, normal appearance for a conventional valid cognition, that things just appear.
Taki
So
Comes
to
in
con-
Tarig, no? That comes in Tarig. They explain this.
Te delshete tarila la vidua. Delshete, kerangi delshete. Kerantagin delshe gyapsona.
Tarig.
다른 것이 있어.
Mare, te kerangi delshe gyaptante. Te tarila la vidua. Tarila la vidua.
데릴라라고 그래.
Tarik.
다른
Dura lorik tarik. Te kerangi delshe gyaptante, te tarigi nang lola. Sungyorpa.
민러시 가데.
Te tani petseme nang sulte.
알레 다니 세메노세테 거 기도는 오만이야 레그레스. 다른 놈은 간가 봐서는 여바 전주 시야지만 또 이용하래.
Yeah. So in general, like this way of explanation that I gave, so it doesn't come in Tariq, so it comes mainly in the Madhyamika or the middle way scriptures, because in the Tariq scriptures, so things are being discussed as though they appear just the way that they exist, as though they appear. They exist as though they established from their own side.
이라 다른 놈은 단다 티가 그 계좌도 싫어 시 말했어. 그 야야로 그 럽세지나 럼버지나로 보여라.
Yes, so in the context of collected topics and science and reasoning, which is Tariq in Tibetan, so so things are being discussed there, and not like as though like they're not established from their own side and so forth. There is no such discussion there. Slowly, when progressing in the classes and lessons, so this kind of discussion is coming.
다
Yeah,
그저티다.
I have
저도
one question.
소소를 다 아니야. 아니 소소를 봐 공사 마제노나다 스제노나다 지 잘라노나다 소소 고 노아노제 파쇼티 열로 노아노제 저소티 요다 삼바지레노티 노아노제 파치 열 마레 삼바지레도세 아서 소소 노아다 정지지나다.
Yes, so now if we make kind of an investigation for how things appear to us, so I want to ask you the following question. So whether what appears to us is kind of a certain object or furniture or kind of sentient beings, whatever appear to us, so do we have the thought that it exists the way that it appears, like, or that we have also like this kind of thought that it doesn't exist the way that it appears? So what kind of thought do we have in our mind with regards to how things appear to us and how they exist actually? Okay, so yeah, we have that.
So it follows a little bit along that is, what is the confusion then in the way a person appears and how I perceive how they appear?
What is the confusion?
What is the confusion?
How the person appears and how he exists. Ani kon gitio te kare reserna, ani te ngazo kanis lavorete tulvate karere te perna te ngengola te kansa te nangwatan te kansa te yopa niki parula te tultante kare karere. Te tio kon gitio te.
공부해야되라. 노아디 돈 롱문이와 노아디 가르치 진천들라래.
Emare chiritane te kansa te yotan.
요동데
Te nune chene yotante. Ta kansa te kanis lavorete nie shepala nangsulte. Nie shepala nangwate. Te niki parula te tultsul.
시 코로 요파데도 시발레 요파 노아니 보디 접설라라.
Re te niki parula tultsulte.
쳤을들라이메.
Tultsul.
tulnatisha.
Tulvetsul. No tul sharvate kare resa.
가르가르라. 당가서 딜라레스. 기타니 르딜라 미시베 목바지가레스. 좋아. 세면이지 르 노토스야지. 니 다다 ngaso pina ngaro nga nyambe lo nongge chiro 티게 겨로티노 티 담메나 뭐 답자지 노지지 티게 겨로티 시바 아니 재미지 일로세야지 티게 저지 데레스 티게 과톤나 시바들 파존이 요바 노노지 요바 아니 제지 데더라 티게 농게 시바가 플로티노디용 재미지 이게 막 도다 잘지 많이 빌로 달로 저절로지 어떻게 깨지니 아디 노버지레스 저지 저레스 사티나 도모디지 게 비치다시
Okay, so the way that things, the way that we are mistaken with regards to the object that appears to us is that, so what we have in our mind is that we have like kind of in the deep of our mind, we have what is called incorrect mental attention or incorrect mental application. We have this kind of mental factor. And this kind of what we have, like this kind of mind, this kind of specific consciousness or mind, this incorrect, this kind of incorrect mental application or mental attention, by the force, like by this being a condition, we are mistaken with regards to how things appear to us. By the condition of this incorrect mental application or incorrect mental attention. Soon I'll give an example. But this is in general like how we mistake with regards to the object that appear to us by the condition of this specific mind.
very good.
Oh, your question is very, very good. Like it's kind of going straight to the root of the things. So it's very, very good.
타바지라 니 진저고지 리진 켜려요바지 타바인바지 돌라 당가서 되는 파는 진들이 거들려 받은 잡은잡이요디 아마 진도 우사 짜짜지래고라 데라 가려요레서 행일로 지금 여 마사라지 여 서부지 많통아 온기 아니 고 타바데라 저리서 짜지래라 어디 노제 딱히 동보 여 마사라다메 코시타신 통나코 저리 테이마라 타바인바 송도라래 이렇게 만바 정세 법 만바티 pombi 온기 디 타바데 저 녀밀러들 레레스 디 노제 나솔리용 아니 노 메시비 모바 마르바지 유레스 디다다게 맘바 노시레스 디가 맘바티가 아니 맘바 보니 타바데 저 녀밀러들 레고도 디 노제 나소고 딜리 메시비 모바티가 공기 니 나제 노레 나제 노노노제 또 니고디 요도 사다지 타타라 드레 사와 녀모노제 어떠니 지바 참르레스 리지 비도 저 그레스 디는 초칭게 노 메시비 모바지 유레스 디 제안로나 토마 메바는 가서 그들 딜레데스 다 티카마도 지바다 가서 사지야요마 티카데 카토스나 아니 사지 ton르레스
Yes, so
Thank
now
you so much.
Karinchesa. So now if you are going to give an example, so the example that we can give is what Jetson Kappa, Master Jetson Kappa is saying in the great stages of the path. I think you can translate it into English like that, and in general, like it, the text, its name is Lamrim Chenmo. So in this text, so what Jetson Kappa is saying is giving the example of a rope that is kind of coiled like around itself. So it is said that this rope, which is coiled around itself, by the condition of prior to seeing this rope, like kind of have a condition that things doesn't appear very, very clearly. For example, if you are kind of in a dark room or something like this. So if we are in a dark room and there is kind of a coiled rope in this room, so due to the condition of the darkness, so we are going to be mistaken with regards to the rope and think like, oh, this is a snake. Like we are going to have like this kind of mistaken mind and think like what we see is actually a snake due to the condition of the darkness that affects the way that we see or the way that the things appear to us. And if there was no this kind of darkness in the room, there was no this kind of condition that would kind of disturb us to see how things actually are, so we won't be mistaken with regard to the object, right? We could see that this is a rope actually. So in the same manner, we can give this example and do this analogy with regards to our ignorance or our unknowing. So due to our ignorance, so we can we can say that our ignorance is just like this darkness. So due to our ignorance, we kind of, by the force of this ignorance, we perceive, or the eye appears as if it exists from its own side. So the ignorance is kind of this darkness. Due to this condition, all the things and the eye specifically appears as though it exists from its own side. So this is kind of the process, or like kind of how we are mistaken with regards to the object, and due to which condition it happens. And this type of ignorance which disturbs us to see how things are actually are, and not being mistaken, and kind of always make us mistaken with regards to the object that appears to us, just like the darkness. So this type of ignorance we have from beginningless time. This type of ignorance that that by the force of it, things appear as though they exist from its own side. So we have it like from beginningless time. And if we want, so because we have this type of ignorance, we are not enlightened. But as soon as we'll get rid of this type of ignorance and confusion, then eventually we'll be able to reach the state of Buddhahood.
Pēnā ngā yō chō zō pī chī shī nē, chī shī gu rā. Zō tō ngā sō nyōng tā tō kā ngā tō kā rī ngō nī shī rē nā, mē shī pī mō pā. Mā shī nī, chā kā kā rī nā, nī lī mā shī pī. Anī tī kī nyōng tā tō chē tē yō rē sī. Pēnā ngā sō ngā mā gēn shī yō rē. Tā tī sōng tō shī nā ngā sō lō chō lō tsā shī bī yō rā. Nē kō kōmbā kō chō lō tī nō tī tēn chō chī yā. Kō shā chō kō tō kō chī bī yō rā. Ngō nī rī shī nā mā nī yā tē tē yī sī rā tō kō chī bō tē yā. Tā pāshō nī kō tsō pāshō kōmbā nō tē kī pū mō bō yō sī rā. 그래서 지금 설레니 직다요 서라 그리고 좀 딥하진 로서스 다 거기에 같이 좀 파초로 딘도스 판도샤도스 거지 그 제타신 로이스라 그 게들이 니니 더 그거 좀 보라 그거 좀 사사랬던들이 지금 니데요서라 다 제가 거다 제나다 막 그거도 말아 그러니까 다 파쇼는 부이질레니 직다이세 거 직다 그 같이로 좀 판도스라스 나고 반도네 가르라고 로바서 저도 동팅도 달았어. 아니도 좀 고쳐야들이지도 돈들이 제기들어. 딱 커서 딱이 게드가 그 대권 트라스선에 그 야르니 도가르니 뒤는 딱 커서 정말 간도서 정말 레그랬어. 그다. 그 가르스나 메시피 모피 몽기다 제마가 뭔가디 그 돈이 도서라. 딱고 트라스레. 엔 사마치우데 돈이 가요래. 이게 나치다 그 메시피 모바데 그 나치. 비용기 넣친줄로스지. 비용이 뭐가 저거 도셔도 어디 문제 됐다. 거서.
Yes, so now I'm going to give another example. So before I give this example, so in general, whatever kind of problem or whatever kind of suffering or difficulties that we encounter in our life, it's all due to our ignorance or not knowing with regards to whatever, like kind of whatever thing like that we don't know, so the problems arise due to our unknowing or our ignorance with regards to it. So if I give a certain example, so in the monastery there was like a certain teacher that in the night, so he kind of prepared his mattress and just went to sleep, and he was like kind of very, very fat, so he had like a big belly, and then like when he had a big belly, so like kind of laid down on his back, and then he kind of just went to sleep. So then his students, his disciples, like went outside his room, and then they saw like outside of the window. They didn't see like the whole body of the teacher, but they just saw the belly of the teacher because it was very, very apparent because he was very fat. So he had a very big belly, so they just saw like the belly of the teacher. So then the student that saw it, he just straight away, he just ran away. He was very, very scared. And then he told to all his friends that, oh, I saw in the teacher's room, I saw that there is kind of a ghost. I saw a ghost in the teacher's room because he didn't see like all the body of the teacher and he just saw like the big belly. So he thought that there is a ghost in the room. So then he told all his friends. And then the teacher came like to all the disciples, all the students, and he kind of led them to his room. And then he said, oh, where is the ghost that you talked about? There is no ghost, right? So then in the same manner, so due to our ignorance, due to our unknowing of the situation, we have this kind of mistaken mind. We have that mind that perceives things wrongly. And the mind that perceives things wrongly this is the cause for all the different problems and difficulties that we encounter in our life.
저는 빈지 좋아요. 띵은 빈.
So do you have any question online? It seems like one has had a question.
I just want to confirm a couple things. So the person, so the kind of perception where we don't differentiate what is what, there is still appearance of assisting from his own side. It's just
Can you
that the
say it
person
once
is
again?
not
Sorry,
aware.
I didn't hear you.
For the kind of perception where the person is not differentiating whether it is imputedly assistant or assistant from the own side, there is still the appearance of the appearing from his own side. It's just that the person doesn't know it, right? Because the person have not been taught about emptiness and all of this.
The person
Or could it be somebody has learned about emptiness, but they are not paying attention, they are feeling very calm, then they may have a perception where it is neither.
So you're asking like about the third type of perception, right?
Yeah, that kind of perception. It can happen to somebody who has not learned about emptiness, or it happened to somebody who has learned about emptiness, but they are just not thinking, they are not paying attention.
Okay. Ani kongi tiwa te nangsul sumpate korlar. Ni nangsul sumpate karare sarna te parmala. Te yokan shigi. Nangsul shiraba. Te ranguna dupa manangwache. Te ranguna madupa yang manangwache. Te chiritane te nangsul te chiritan gi. Nangsul shig. Iraba.
논서 선바다 롱건에 옆에 놓게 된 말이.
Laso ani chichan nipate.
아니 니바들에
Te perna.
다 고다 롱건에 옆에 만나 롱건에 매바 만나 게 논서 다 트렌드다. 선바에 니바는 게도.
Ani te kongi tiwa te korlar. Ani te nangsul te kare kengi te nangire. Ani kongi te samsul mindrawa ni sungson. Ta chikchana te soso dumta la sokba te so lojoma. Lojom chamanyo wa kengi te so nangire. Yomena kandes la wara. Yomena soso toni ke korla te lojom chena yang. Tatum te yi sheta ma te pache. Te korla tana sheta ma te pache. Tana sheta ma che pache. Te nangsul te nangire.
티 논서다 콜지 돈이를 맞서 돈이를 저 전달로 몸보 집어지 있으나 전달 몸보지가 롱원이 옆에 시작진 시대거라. 이오게 롱원이 옆에 놓데 딱히 롱원이 옆에 접어도 마치비 그 점마디 아니 논서도 데스 가자레스 로젠바지. 기온이 그 옆에 놓았다 그래. 저돈이 그 여데레스. 롱원이 옆에 롱원이 공기 접어 마치비 미디 따로 여데라. 그 여안에 연계 글로디 맞서 소마키나 하시디야 그 미디레. 이나 맞서 몸보지라디 롱원이 옆에 들어간 좀 블로드 kunjipan dini chaprashi matur. Maso saki jela ina ti yoderes. Ti saki jela yore maso jela yores. Gaza meeting maso ngando ti rongoni yobi chapatu machi rongoni mebi chapatu machi bi mati yodero. Ti yodi yoba noji te kollo te nodere saki da noderes. Ina ti nosa hama koni. Rongoni yobati node sami ti tam hama ko deres. Jito manjik te machi machi letuna ko ndo larama ti li pajan ju jemares. 요나 코 가린도 그 본보들의 공고들의 골라바들 점지점 그도 세 다서 오케이 다로 잘했어 요디 탄저가 다로 미도 다도 또 따자로 세 데리 그도 다로 잘해 딜리 파티한테는 아니 롱이 요바 너 소모도 그래 요나 롱이 메바 소모도 그 단위도 요바 자세 그 데리스 이게 또 용매지게 무슨 말을 저도 gente não 요레스 이나요 다 주다고 뭐 롱이 요바리 이제 봐서 놓아들 롱이 요바 집어지니 농게 지자샤로 어디 무슨 저도 용매지를 그 무슨 점세 개긴 말을 로디가 그 농소도 그 저도 요디 그 농소 바로 레스 들 점세 뭐 무슨 개긴 말레스.
So in general, that the type of appearance that you talked about, that appearance which is not distinguished by means of established from kind of the appearance which is not of the mind which grasps things that established from its own side, or neither by the mind that kind of apprehend that things do not establish from its own side, but just by means of kind of designated by conceptual thought. So neither of these two minds, so this kind of the other appearance of how things generally kind of exist to a kind of a conventional valid cognition. So this is the type that you talked about, right? So in general, there is no so many reasons. There is no so many reasons with regards to why things appear to us like this, because like this appearance, it's in common with every sentient beings and also including the Buddha. The Buddha is not sentient being, but he also have this kind of perception. He also have this kind of appearance of like the things just appear like conventionally. So this is something that someone that didn't study the Buddhist philosophical school of thoughts and so forth, he is kind of behaving in the world, or he's kind of he's kind of acting in the world or communicating like based on this kind of valid cognition, like saying, oh, this person is there, this person is that, and so forth, and not really kind of investigating further than that, like saying, oh, how does this person exist? Does it exist like, does its hand, his head, his mind, and so forth, like where is the person? Not doing like this kind of investigation, just the normal way that things appear to us. This is in common with everyone. And this is also like what the Pausangika Madhyamika school, the middle way consequentialist school, this is what they posit as the I or the self that should not be negated. How things just appear by means of name or labels of the mind. So yeah.
Okay.
But if we are
Okay.
talking,
그럼 this
Okay, so yeah, the time is over today.
time is finished. Thank you. 정말 되지지.
Thank you everyone.
손이 돼요.
Okay, so we'll also meet tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay, so I was late in 1 minute. Sorry.
이나 당가서 티컬로 단다 문부 전지 지나면서 니만 가지고 다 지어지지 말했어.
Yes, so
나 전지 문부 맞지는 니만 가지고 다 지어지지 말게.
yeah, so now if it's okay, like if you want to do a lot of investigation and like for a few days we'll just kind of stay in the state of not having a very, very clear or certain decision or like how things are and so forth.
그것도 내 여자를 고동 시다리다. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. 돼지제.